Hey guys, I'm Steve with TronicsFix. We have a PS4 Slim right here and it's time to tear it down. Okay, here we are with the PS4 Slim. This one I've never actually taken apart before, so I'm assuming I kind of need all the same tools as I need with the regular PS4, but I don't know for sure. So the first thing we're going to take off is the warranty sticker as usual. So we're just going to use a little pick for this and we will get that taken off. Save it aside for our collection. And it looks like we've just got a security Torx, probably a T8. Yep, T8, usually a T9 works as well. So that is now taken off, and let's go ahead and take the hard drive out as well. As you can see, that just you just get your finger right in the groove right there, push it sideways and that'll slip out. So we're gonna move that out of the way as well. And now we've got the Sony screw for the hard drive. So we're going to take that out. Just that typical screw they use for the hard drives. And then as you can see on the side here with that plastic plate off, we just got a tab we can pull out the hard drive. And there's a look at the hard drive. Right here. I'm going to take these 4 screws off. Let's see what kind of hard drive it is. Okay, now those 4 screws are off, and this one is a Toshiba, and it is 500 gig, 5400. Now we have to figure out how to get this bottom case off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that it comes off the same as the previous PS4s. So I'm going to pull up on the corner and then pull up on this corner, and that seems to have gotten it off. And then we're just going to slide the whole case forward, and there's the case. Bottom case actually looks fairly similar. We've got the buttons right here, the physical buttons, one right there, one right there. So the power button and then the eject button, both right there. So this is the first look for me at the inside of the PS4 Slim, and we've got the disk drive here, and of course over here we got to take this metal plate off to get to the motherboard. But what we're gonna do first is flip it over, take the power supply out, and then we can get this off. So I also don't know how to get this off. Oh, that seems easy, I guess. So we just pull up on there. There's some clips that hold that in. There's another clip right over here, and then that just comes off. Okay, that's easy enough. And now for the power supply, it looks like we have the power supply right here, and then also possibly a Wi-Fi antenna right here. So that will come off next. I'm gonna take out, we've got some T8 security Torx that are long. So I'm gonna take those off first. And then, kind of like the 1200 series, we've just got this metal plate that comes off. I'm going to put these screws in there so they stay right there with it. Now we've got 2 Phillips over here and 2 Phillips over here, using a Phillips number 1. And now just the Phillips for the antenna over here. I'm assuming it might actually just be a metal clip. I'm gonna be real careful with it. Okay, it looks like kind of both. It is the antenna, but it also kind of clips on there. So that just clips on. So I'm assuming this might actually not even have to come off. We'll take the power supply out, and then this probably has a clip that clips down onto the motherboard. Let's check it out. So to get the power supply out, okay, we got a little grip on it right back here. This part of the power supply is loose, this part is not. Let's take a look at the other side. And it looks like this screw may be what's holding it in, so let's remove that screw. It is a Phillips. And I can already see the power supply has dropped down already, so it's this screw right here that you have to take out. So that loosens the power supply. and we've got the Wi-Fi antenna right here, and the Wi-Fi antenna is routed right there. So we have to deroute it from this whole routing right here. So I'm going to use needle nose pliers. Just pull up on that antenna. What I do is grasp it, gently but firmly, and then twist it and pull. And then we're just going to deroute it right there. So that is off. And now we have the power supply cable that goes to the motherboard. Normally I use needle nose pliers. This one, we may be able to just pull on it. So that's what we're going to try. Just give it a fairly good tug back and forth, and that disconnects that. So there we have the PS4 Slim with no power supply. Next, we'll deroute this Wi-Fi cable using our needle nose pliers. I'll pull it up so I can show you guys. Just pull it up like that. And then there are some pieces of tape that hold that back. So that looks pretty good for that. Now we need to flip it over, and then we need to take all of these screws out. We've got a bunch of metal machine screws, and so we're going to get those all taken out with our electric screwdriver. And that looks like all of those. Now keep in mind, it does look like there is one screw right there that comes in from the other side. So I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to take that screw out. It is this one right here. There is actually an arrow that points to it. So let's get that taken out. And it is a long screw, as you can see. So our goal here is just to be able to remove this plate and get the motherboard out. Now all of the black screws on this are actually the exact same size. So you don't need to keep track of where the specific screw goes, just where the black screws in general go. So the next thing we're going to do is deroute this Wi-Fi cable from this whole area here, and then we'll be able to take this metal plate off. So once again, I'm going to grasp it and twist with my needle nose pliers, and then just move it back out of the way. And we do have one black screw up in the corner here that we forgot, so we got that off. And now it looks like we need to remove all of the cables, the ribbon cables for the disk drive. So we've got this cable, this cable, this cable, and this cable. So we're going to remove all those next. And these ones, most of them, it looks like all except for one, you just grab on the dark blue part and you pull. This cable right here, you need to just flip up. I just use my fingernail, flip up and pull it out. So now the disk drive cables are disconnected. Now we're going to disconnect the antenna, or the fan cable. Just a 3-wire cable, and you just pull it out with your fingers like that. Now this should be loose, and it is. Oh, it looks like we must have forgotten one over here. Okay, we've got 2 screws right here that we've not removed yet. That one, and that one. Now the plate should come up. And it does. So the metal plate, and it looks like we've got some thermal pads here. When you remove this, you have to make sure that those thermal pads do stay on or are on the motherboard so you don't lose any of them. Okay, and now we have our first look at the motherboard. And it actually looks pretty similar. It is smaller than the motherboard for the previous PS4 models. The 1215 had a slightly larger motherboard than this, and it also had this kind of the same clamp configuration. I was hoping they would redo this because even the 1215 models still have some problems with turning off and turning on and turning back off. I was hoping they would redo that to prevent that. The solder joints under the APU still may have problems with that. But there's just no way to know at this point. So we're going to remove these 2 screws, and we're also going to remove this connector for the disk drive, and then the motherboard should pull up and out. So this we're gonna leave here until we get the motherboard out. In fact, we may just leave it there altogether. So the next thing we're gonna do is pull up on the back of the motherboard, and that should help us clear these connections right here. So we do need to remove that cable still. I'm gonna use needle nose pliers. And if you grab real gently and wiggle and pull, it'll come off just like that. So that is now removed. And now we pull up on the back and pull back this way. And now we can see the inside. So here we've got the APU. I've seen a lot of people commenting about the APU and where's the GPU. The APU is a GPU and CPU put together into one called an APU. Stands for Accelerated Processing Unit. And that's this chip. And then you can see on the back side here, these are the RAM chips. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 RAM chips. So those are the RAM chips. And here are the ports, the HDMI port. I'll give you guys a look at that. Let me take a look. So this HDMI port is the upgraded port, the upgraded style that has the pins integrated into the plastic, and in the back the plastic is solid. So that is a much better style, so those should work well. One thing that does kind of worry me about these is these USB ports are awfully tall. Sometimes when they get tall like this, when people shove the cables in, they do end up bending backwards. So hopefully there's enough support in here that that doesn't happen, but you never know, it could happen, so hopefully not. But this gives you an overview of what the motherboard looks like for the PS4 Slim. Now that we have the motherboard out, let's take a closer look here. One thing you got to be careful of when you're removing these is there is more thermal pads on this. One there, one there, one there, and one there. And there is one that goes right here too that's back on the motherboard. So that is one thing you got to be careful of. With this, hopefully Sony is trying to keep this thing cooler and keeping these chips cooler. And hopefully that'll mean they have less problems with the solder joints going bad on these. So now let's remove this bottom plate and have a look at the heatsink. For the bottom plate, it looks to me like there's 2 screws here and 2 screws here. I don't see, oh, there is 2 screws over here as well. So let's take those off and see if we can get it off. Okay, now this plate should just lift up. See, it is loose and it is lifting up for me. Let's move this cable out of the way for us. Okay, now this is that side, and now we're going to get a look at the cooling fins. So you can see the cooling fins here. The cooling area really isn't that big on this, and this is the large metal plate that does a lot of that collects a lot of the heat. And I don't see any. It does look like there is a heat pipe in this one. You can barely see it right down here. It looks like the heat pipe is between the cooling fins and the large metal plate of the heatsink. It looks like there is one there. So that gives you an idea of what the cooling fins look like and also the heatsink area. Now we can have a look at the fan. So here's the fan. It's about the same size as the previous fan, so everything looks very similar with that. So let's go ahead and take out the Blu-ray drive. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 screws holding the Blu-ray drive in. So let's get those removed and we'll see if that's enough to get it out. Okay, those 4 screws are removed and it does look like that's enough to get it out. One interesting thing here is this board right here. On the back side, it has the power and eject buttons, and also it's got the buzzer that makes noise when you power it on or power it off. And that is located just right here at the front of the Blu-ray player. So let's flip this over and give you a view of the bottom side. It looks similar to the 1200 series, but it's a little bit different. This part is a lot larger, but other than that, it does look very similar. I am going to go ahead and take this screw and this screw off and pull this plate off so you can have a look at the laser. So the PH0 that I've been using is a little bit too big for these screws on the disk drive, so I'm using a 000, and that seems to work a lot better. So we're going to take these screws out. Now this part is important for any of you that get things stuck in here, or you need to get your disk out for some reason if the manual eject isn't working. And that is, you just pull up on the back, and you have to remember that there's locating tabs. There's one here and some over here as well. So what you got to do is just pull from the front, and then there you go. There's that. And then let's take a look at the laser. So right here's the laser, and so that's the part that reads the disk. You got your rollers here and this carrier here, and these are the rollers and the white connecting rod that can become misplaced, and that can cause problems with your disk going in or making noise or not reading disks. It's not as common on the 1200 series, and I'm hoping that it won't be as common on this as well, but it may be. There's no way to know yet. So this looks very similar to the 1200 series disk drive, and I don't see any too major of changes on it. So that concludes our teardown of the PS4 Slim. Keep an eye on our channel, and we're going to be doing a assembly video. So we'll go ahead and replace the thermal paste and then show you guys how to put this all back together. And that'll be coming up soon, so keep an eye on our channel, and thanks for watching.